inductee is Deane Juhan. Judith Baston will be accepting for him tonight.
This is the last one. You know, as I'm sitting there and listening to you all talk about the different people, I realize that it's really an honor to participate as a witness to someone's history and who they are. So I appreciate the feel in the room of listening and paying attention and honoring all of that. First of all, I want to say that I regret not being here with you for this festival celebration of our profession. I can only offer what I hope is the best possible excuse. I am in Chicago teaching and further developing my own work in our collective enterprise of trying to bring our touch and feeling-deprived culture to its senses, and to train practitioners who can more effectively serve our common goals. Secondly, I want to say what a deep and much appreciated honor it is for me to be included among the individuals who are being inducted into the World Massage Festival's Hall of Fame. This honor comes to me quite unexpectedly. One simply does what one can to follow one's passion, whether or not any particular public recognition comes about as a result. He's such a wonderful writer. But it is very gratifying to me to find myself amongst those whom you consider to have contributed to your collective purpose, and I am very moved to realize that my own work and writing has been for others a significant thing in their professional development. I came to bodywork from about as far out left field as can be imagined. I did not really know that such a profession existed before the night of April 18, 1973, when a friend led me through the bushes down a steep hill to sneak into the Esalen Baths. Okay, how many of you here have been at the Esalen Baths? All right. Which I also did not know existed. While I was sitting there that night, the eve of my Saturn return, looking up at a full moon flanked by 5 planets across the ecliptic, listening to the surf 50 feet below, someone came up behind me and began kneading my shoulders and neck. In about 5 minutes, my mind was laying in pieces and parts scattered on the bathhouse floor. I had no idea what had hit me, but it was clear that it was a very big deal. It turned out that this first trained touch in my experience came from a guy named Ken LeBlanc, speaking of history, a Louisiana madman who worked on the Esalen massage crew at the time. We became friends through that summer, and I visited Esalen repeatedly until that fall, when it came time for me to return north to Berkeley to finish my PhD thesis on William Blake, the poet of the flesh. Getting ready to leave, I stood looking at the Esalen driveway thinking, well, I can either go back to school and experience through Blake's poetry the kind of thing I have come to experience here, or I can stay here and live it. At that moment, one of the staff managers came up to me and said, someone just quit my crew, do you want a job? I said yes, and nothing has been the same since. During my 18 years at Esalen, my exposure to training in bodywork was immersed in its Ed Sullivan variety show of all kinds of exploratory therapies, gestalt, group therapy, movement therapy, music, acupuncture, Rolfing, Feldenkrais, Traeger, and so on. From the beginning, my massage practice developed in the larger context of emotional work, cognitive work, structural integration, intuitive work, and of course, extraordinarily, spirit of the early 70s. There I met Dick Price, Janet Letterman, Bill Schutz, Stanislav Grof, Fridtjof Capra, Anna Halpern, Richard Tarnas, and seemingly an endless host of influences who continue to inspire me over the years. And of course, Dr. Milton Traeger, who was to become my chief mentor for 24 years until his death. In the midst of all of this, I continued to look around me and witness so many profound changes occurring in people's lives in a very short time of exposure to the Esalen milieu, and the scholar of me said, this all must be happening for reasons we can understand scientifically as well as experientially. Why are these changes happening for people? Beginning with Ashley Montagu's seminal book, Touching the Human Significance of the Skin, I started to pursue the one thing that 9 years of college had left me with, a passion for reading and writing. 9 years later, it all led to Job's body. My growing conviction throughout my career in bodywork has been that there is nothing more important for our fractured world today than this thing you all have chosen to do in your profession, touching people. Touch is the universal language, the oldest language, the language that cannot lie, the language that leaps across cultural, ideology, and personal boundaries like no other. It is a source of empathy, of physiological and psychological education, and of the communion between human beings that has the power to transcend so many of the barriers that divide us from one another in a common purpose of growth and cooperative humans. It is a primary key to self-awareness, the capacity for self-regulation, and the ability to successfully adapt to life's changing circumstances. It is the simple key of compassionate touch that has been the most egregiously left out of our education as human beings, and is the absence has badly crippled our ability to establish compassionate community. Milton Trainer once asked, "What is the purpose of your work?" After reflecting a moment, his answer was world peace, one body at a time. Perhaps we begin our practices by thinking we are here to facilitate the healing of physical injuries and developmental problems. But far beyond this, what we have in our hands is a way to heal hearts, minds, families, communities, and perhaps in our own small way, the world and ourselves. Please continue doing what you are doing and continue to celebrate it in the festival, in your practices, and in your lives. It is so